We need to talk about the FIRE movement. If you're not aware of what I'm talking about, FIRE just stands for financial independence, retire early. It's essentially a movement of people who want to be able to retire before their retirement age is 65. I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing, but personally, I don't want to work a ton at a job that I don't enjoy, just for the simple fact that I am able to retire 20 or 30 years earlier than normal. Come along with me for today. I want to break down both sides of financial independence and retiring early. Not because I think that it's 100% wrong. It's done a lot of good for a lot of people. I want to talk about something that I'm implementing in my life, which is different than early retirement, which I think will not only make me happier now, but also for the long term, and it will make me a little bit less reliant of only stock market returns. And that's the first thing that we're going to talk about. Not financial independence, but something else. And that something else is income independence rather than financial independence. I gotta go sing some songs real quick and then we'll get into why income independence is arguably way better than financial independence, because it can give you a lot more, a lot faster. Before I let you know why I think income independence is way better than financial independence, let's go over the pros and cons of FI, or financial independence. When people talk about financial independence, they're normally talking about never having to work again. Being able to live completely off of your investments and essentially doing whatever you want every single day of your life, which is not something that I'm against. I just think that there might be a way that you could do that faster because of some of the cons that I'm going to get to here. Now, the first big con of financial independence to me is that you aren't in control of your schedule until you get there. This is one of the main reasons that I wanted to quit my job, mostly because I had requested Thanksgiving off like 5 months in advance, and my boss said that they would get back to me, and then they got back to me and said no, even though nobody else was on the schedule for Thanksgiving off. And I thought that was ridiculous because I wanted to travel and I let them know that. So not being in control of my schedule really kind of sparked my drive to leave my job as fast as I possibly could, and we'll get to that story in a second. Secondly, it just takes a really long time to get to financial independence. And that's a long time that even if you like your job, the reason that you're searching for this financial independence, retiring early, is so that you don't have to be beholden to anybody else. So you're still working for someone else during this long time that it takes you to get there, which can be a little bit of a problem because you usually have to deprive yourself a lot as you're pursuing financial independence, because normally what financial independence means is that you have 25 times your annual expenses in investments. Now this is because you can normally take out 4% of your investments every single year as long as you have a balanced portfolio, and you'll essentially never run out of money. Some people who are in this movement prefer to only take 3% or 2% out per year. So instead of 25 times your expenses, you might need 33 times or 50 times your expenses. Now, obviously, that means the higher proportion of your income you can save, the less that you're living on, so your expenses are lower. So if you were to invest 50% of your income, it would take you 16.6 years to retire. Now, that's short for the amount of time it takes you to retire, but 16.6 years is a long time. I'm 23 now. I would be 40 then. That feels a little old. If you're 40, you're not old, but that feels old to me because I'm 23. If it's kind of what is recommended, 25%, it'll take you 32 years to retire. So if you really want to retire fast, if you save 75% of your income, it'll only take you 7 years. But that's still 7 years, and I think that you could use those 7 years better than depriving yourself a little bit and investing a ton. And I know a lot of people won't necessarily have to deprive themselves, because if me and my wife were making $200,000 a year, we can afford to invest 75% because we only live off of $36,000 now, and that would be $14,000 more than that. But for a lot of people who want to retire early, especially on lower incomes, you'll have to deprive yourself a lot, because you can retire early on a $40,000 a year income. You're gonna have to live on almost nothing above the basic survival needs for a long time in order to get there. Now, the fourth and final major con that I see from financial independence is something that I hadn't thought about, but when I told my wife what video I was making, this was the main thing that she thought about, so maybe some of you will as well, but it's the fact that you never know how long you have to live. And if you're gonna be depriving yourself and living just above survival just so you can have so much invested, that's great if you're able to outlive that, and the majority of people will, but you never 100% know. So let me tell you why I think income independence is better, because you can enjoy your life now, but still kind of work towards these same goals, just maybe in a better, faster, and more enjoyable way. I also just realized I have to go to counseling now as well. Well, as usual, say it with me, I'm late. All right, so here's the main thing that I'll leave you with before I go to counseling, which for you only take like 1 second. It's that the best way to do this is to find ways to make money doing things that you love. In other words, building businesses around your lifestyle. Honestly, I was planning on just getting right back into the video, but I have to say, every single time that I've gone to counseling, especially over these past few weeks, as I've gotten more attuned with my counselor and we built up a little bit of a history, I always go in without a ton of expectations or without a ton to talk about specifically. And this week I even did, but it always just goes places that I never expect and are way better. Let's go grab some lunch, and I do have a quick warning about this income independence over financial independence. The growth towards getting to your goal is going to seem like it might take longer, because when you're working a normal job, your growth is much more linear. You're going to get a raise every couple of years, you might get a promotion, and that's what that is going to look like. It's going to be a pretty straight line, a couple of bumps because I'm not good at drawing straight lines, but you're going to be hitting your goal right about here in this scenario. The difference is when you're working towards income independence, especially because you might quit your job just to be a little bit happier before you're making a ton of money, like me, it's going to look a little bit more like this, which is an exponential curve. Now down here, all of this time, it might seem like it's going to take you more time than if you were just going the traditional retiring early route. However, you can see because it's exponential, it stays a little flatter and then goes way up, and you're gonna have much higher income cap than you otherwise would. And you might even get there faster than if you were going the traditional retirement early route, and you'll probably enjoy your life a lot more. All right, so let's talk about the three main pros of income independence over financial independence. There are actually four, but we already talked about one, which is that your income can be exponentially higher than it would be at a normal job, because it comes down to how well you run your business, not how much your boss wants to pay you. The first is the fact that work is way more enjoyable when you're doing something for yourself and actually doing something that you're passionate about than if you were working for somebody else. Now this is obviously because if you're doing it the way that I'm talking about, you're creating businesses around your lifestyle, around things that you already love. So even though it is still work and there are still things that suck about it, please don't hear me say that it's just some romanticized, everything is perfect in the world kind of work. But doing something that actually gives you purpose because you enjoy it is automatically going to be way better than just doing something because your boss tells you to do it or because it's what gives you the paycheck. And at the same time, time off is more enjoyable because you're not stressed about going back to work because you enjoy the work that you do. Now, the next con has to do a little bit with passive income, but also making way more active income. It's that you can make money without working, and you can make as much overtime as you want. Now that's because making money without working is just passive income. It's finding ways that even if you're on vacation or you have to take sick days off, to do work now that's going to allow for you to make money in the future. For me, that's making YouTube videos, because videos that I made months ago or maybe even a year ago at this point, I'm making money on now that I'm making money on YouTube. And so whether or not I'm actively managing my channel or doing stuff for it, I'll still be making money as those videos get views. And there are plenty of ways that you might be able to do this. Even Amazon FBA can kind of feel like that, because even if I'm on vacation for a week, the work that I've already done will be getting me sales now. The other side of that is that you can work as much overtime as you want. Most jobs will cap your overtime or even say no overtime. And so when you're trying to make as much money as you possibly can in order to become financially independent so that you can retire early, most people will either try to work a ton of overtime or get a second job, or some will even start their own business like this. But if you run your own business, you can work as many hours as you want in things that are going to make you money. So if it was a 40-hour work week for me to make 3 videos a week, maybe I want to work 50 hours so that I can get a 4th video out, and that'll be more money for me. Or that's just going and spending more hours buying stuff so that I can sell it on Amazon. Whatever that is, I don't have to go and find a new job in order to do that, or just beg my boss for overtime. I can just work more hours. It is so hot. We gotta get the air conditioning back on here. Oh my gosh. That is rough. 96. The third major pro is to start your encore career now so that you can enjoy a higher percentage of your life. Now, if you don't know what an encore career is, it's essentially what a lot of people do after they retire, just finding work doing something that they enjoy more. This is a relatively common experience for people after they retire, especially if they retire around 60, 65, because for a lot of people, especially if you're like me, not working or having something to do doesn't sound very fun. So why not find out what that encore career is for you now, and then start to create that business for yourself, or finding a job that best suits you, and then you can enjoy a higher percentage of your life, because you won't be doing work for the man and not enjoying it. Instead, you'll be doing what you would have been doing after you retire now, so you can enjoy more of your life now and work towards saving for your retirement, if you even want to have one. Let's not pretend that anything is perfect though. So these are the 3 main cons that I see in the income independence over financial independence debate. I guess it isn't really a debate, it's just something that I'm debating in myself. The first is that it's less stable income, especially up front. I'm specifically talking about this as it's something that I'm feeling the effects of right now, because I quit my job 8 months ago and I'm finally getting closer to where I feel comfortable having a relatively stable income. But that's mostly going to be in the growth phase, because after you're starting to make a lot of money, you'll probably be making more than when you were working for somebody else, especially if you were at a relatively entry-level job like I was. Second is that you're going to have less predictable timelines for financial independence and retirement. When you're working at a job, you know what your income is going to be every single week, you can guess when your raises are going to come, and you can have a consistent budget for how much you're going to be putting towards retirement, so that you can know exactly when you'll hit that financial independence of 25, 33, or 50 times your income. And that kind of just trickles down to retirement. So if you want that really stable linear line, it might be easier for you to just stay at a job and know how much you're going to make and when you're going to be able to retire and have financial independence. And then finally is the fact that some people just don't want the stress of working for themselves or running a business. Now there are stresses to both of these, but having a lot of that weight on your shoulders can be a really stressful thing. So if you're struggling with that right now and you have the means, go to counseling. It's really beneficial. But also just take care of your mental health no matter what. So if you don't think that it'd be good for you to run your own business, don't worry about that. As long as you have financial principles and you relatively enjoy the job that you work, there's definitely so much dignity in that. So don't feel like you have to work for yourself in order to be a complete person. All right, I'm just gonna bask in this AC for a couple of minutes and explain why I feel like retiring early isn't necessarily the best goal. It's not a bad goal, but I feel like it splits up your life into two stages. The first is work, and the second is enjoying your life. But why not just try to both do work and enjoy your life all at the same time by doing something that you actually love for a living? I know you've probably heard this a million times before, but now with the internet, there are so many ways to monetize your passion because there are communities of people who think or believe or love the same things that you do. And you can likely find ways with enough hard work to monetize. Now, no matter how you want to do this, having the same financial independence principles of having 25 or 33 times your expenses saved in investments is really, really good. But having both passive income and active income is a way that you might even be able to take little sabbaticals for yourself throughout the time that you're waiting to fully retire if you do want to fully retire. So what if you could find a way to build a life that you love now while we're young and just live an enjoyable life even through retirement? If it seems super impractical, it's not. It's actually what I'm doing, so let me explain how. I've always known that I didn't want to work for anybody else, and so leaving college, I knew that I wanted to do something for myself, but I couldn't build up the business to do that before I actually went into the real world. So when I moved to Orlando, Florida and got married, obviously that comes with a lot of expenses, so I needed a job. And so honestly not realizing how terrible it was going to be to work 48, 49-hour weeks, and honestly not really enjoying the work, I took a job at Enterprise Rent-A-Car and ended up working there for about 15 months. I honestly don't remember exactly the timeline, but I moved up the ladder. I got a couple promotions, and then I started working 50 to 55-hour weeks, making a little bit more money, but really not enjoying it and not enjoying anything outside of work. And honestly, money isn't the important part of your financial life. It's called a financial life for a reason. So I wanted to get more of my life back. And during all this time, I was trying to build up a YouTube channel, this YouTube channel that you're watching this on, because I knew that my passion was helping people with their money, and I really enjoyed business, and I wanted to be able to travel a lot with my wife. So that seemed like the business that I should start, because that's something that I would enjoy doing every day and having as my job. And so knowing that I needed to get more of my life back from working 55 hours a week there and not even being able to put anything up on YouTube because of how draining it was, I quit that job, took a $15,000 per year pay cut, it's over $1,000 a month, and amounted to 25 to 30% of my salary, so that I could follow a little bit of the advice that I already said, that if you need to still work a job, try to find a job that you would enjoy. So I started working as a banker at Fifth Third Bank. The idea was that I'd be helping people with money, and I'd still be making enough that we could live our lives and invest around $500 to $1,000 every single month. Plus I knew I could move up the ladder and go on that linear trajectory of getting raises and promotions that'll get me closer and closer to reaching financial independence. But honestly, it turned out that it was just boring. I had no passion for it. I wasn't even actually helping people with their money, but was really just pushing products, plus it was a pretty toxic work environment. So I thought about the fastest way that I could quit my job, pursue the businesses that I actually wanted to do long term, and make money for myself. Obviously, if YouTube was working at this point, I wouldn't really have to think about that because YouTube would be making me money, but I still hadn't quite figured it out, and even now I'm still trying to. On top of that, I really didn't have a lot of other skills that I could charge people for to make a lot of money, but I did have some previous experience doing reselling in high school and college, mostly for eBay with shoes at Ross's. That's called retail arbitrage. It's basically where you go to stores like Walmart and Burlington and Ross and buying stuff just for the purpose of selling it online for a profit. Now, because I had done stuff for eBay, I knew that there was a way that you could make money, but I never did a ton of volume there. And I'd heard about Amazon, which is Amazon FBA, buying stuff, sending it into their fulfillment centers, and letting them do most of the back-end work of shipping it to customers. So that fit my purposes of not spending a ton of time doing it, but making enough money that I could quit my job so I can really focus on the passion businesses that I wanted to. So in August of 2020, I did my first sourcing trip to kind of test it out, because you always want to test out the waters of any business before you make a big jump, especially when you have to risk a lot of capital like you do by buying stuff at these stores in order to sell. 2 weeks later in early September, all of my stuff got to Amazon and some of it started selling, and I realized that this was probably a viable option for me to leave my job and start making money for myself. Now, I knew I didn't want to do this forever or even need to make a ton of money doing it, because I went through all my personal finances and realized exactly how much we needed to make to survive, operate the business, and that way I can use as little time as possible to make that money so I can really focus on the things that I want in life. So I knew that I had to sell $250 a day about in gross sales in order to be at that point. So I went really hard on it, and this was a really tough decision, but when I started doing that, I stopped posting videos on YouTube. Now, that's because I knew that working 40 hours at a job, like 45, 50, if you include the commutes in and out of work and lunch breaks, as well as starting to resell so that I'm actually making money, didn't leave me with enough time to continue doing YouTube and doing it well and posting good videos. So I just put it to the side for now, put a pin in it, because I knew that I'd be back at it later, but I needed to leave my job first so I could really focus the time that it would take to make sure that I was putting out a really good product on YouTube and actually eventually start to make money. It honestly happened way sooner than I thought, and after a lot of long nights and a lot of hours of work, in early November I was able to leave my job, and I spent the first couple of months really building up reselling to where I knew that it could run on clockwork and I could focus a lot more time into YouTube. But that really gave me the time to hone my skills so that in in July, this is my first full month of actually being monetized and making money on YouTube, and it's more than I thought it could be. It's not enough to live on yet, it's only the beginning, and we'll get into that next week, but it's a proof of concept that makes me really excited, knowing that hopefully I never have to work for anybody else again. And even though I've been working a lot of hours, it's been doing work that I find purpose and joy in, and it's allowed us to offshoot another business that's going to be coming out soon as we're traveling in this van that we're building out. The key takeaways there are figuring out my life passions, like helping people with their money and creating businesses that give them freedom, and traveling with my wife, knowing my numbers so that I could actually make concrete revenue goals and not just be aiming for some nebulous idea of quitting my job, finding fast money or just a way to make money quickly so that I could eventually work towards what I'm actually passionate about, but leave my job first so that I could pursue that more full time, and having good expectations, which is crucially important so that you're not super disappointed as you do leave your job. And that's something that I definitely still struggle with, as you can see in this video, or watch the other ones that are related to these key takeaways. Peace.